So this video is going to outline content from chapter 6, really talking about the importance of trustworthiness and transparency within organizations, within supervision, as trauma-informed leaders, in psychodrama, and in group psychotherapy in general. So the second trauma-informed principle of trust and transparency is also really important in psychodrama specifically. And as psychodramatists in our training, we really have to learn how to trust the process in psychodrama. I think this is particularly important to psychodrama directing because there's so much spontaneity and so much co-creation that happens in a psychodrama. When I facilitate a psychodrama, I often go in the group with only a warm-up and no idea what the topic's going to be, who's going to be the protagonist, or what the roles in the psychodrama are going to be. And the whole psychodrama is spontaneously co-created with the group, with the protagonist, and with me. And so to walk into a group without any certainty on what the content is going to be and what the process is going to be exactly requires us to really trust in the method we're using and to have faith in the process. Of course, we need to trust the protagonist and to trust the group as well. In classical psychodrama, there's a popular saying to follow the protagonist. And I think this is usually a good rule of thumb, but sometimes it's limited, especially when we're working with trauma survivors, where we might get pulled into the trauma vortex sooner than the protagonist or the group is ready to. And we might have to provide some structure and some containment rather than blindly following the protagonist every single time. So instead of follow the protagonist, I've been suggesting a new motto, which is inspired by a motto in dyadic developmental psychotherapy. And this motto is follow, lead, follow the protagonist. That as psychodrama directors, we need to follow the protagonist. The psychodrama is about the group and it's about the protagonist. It's not facilitator-centered, it's group-centered. So we certainly have to follow the group and follow the protagonist. But we also have a responsibility to lead the group and to lead the protagonist, to keep the process safe, to provide options, to provide a container, to provide safety. So follow, lead, follow the protagonist feels like a more accurate and balanced motto for me than simply following the protagonist. As psychodramatists, we have to trust in the spontaneity and the intelligence within the group, and to trust in the tele within the relationships. Tele is a unique sociometry psychodrama concept, which is discussed in other videos on this channel. Essentially, it's the opposite of transference. It's a two-way accurate knowing and seeing and experiencing of another person. It results in synchronicity and in wholesome connections within the group and people ending up at just the right place at the right time in the right role for the protagonist, but also for themselves. So as psychodramatists, we really have to learn how to trust the tele within the relationships in the group. We also have to learn to embrace uncertainty in the process. If we're too structured and too rigid, then we're not leaving room for spontaneity. There's a certain aspect of uncertainty that comes with facilitating psychodrama and leaving room for spontaneity. As a director in a psychodrama, we have to remember that we don't have to have all the answers. We can collectively work with the group, work with the protagonist, work with the roles in the scene to uncover answers that the protagonist is seeking. So this can take a lot of pressure off of us as directors in that we can, when a question emerges, we can ask the protagonist, hey, I'm not sure where we need to go next as the director. Where do you feel like we need to go next? We could ask the group, hey group, where does it seem like we need to go next in order to accomplish our goal? Or we can even ask the question in surplus reality to any of the roles that are enrolled within the psychodrama scene. So, for example, if God is in the scene and somebody's playing the role of God, we could have the protagonist ask God what they need to do next. And we could even have the protagonist role reverse with God and become God and answer the question through the role of God for themselves. So we don't have to have all the answers. We can trust that the answers are within the group and can emerge from the roles. As psychodramatists, we use sociometry to cultivate a sense of trust in the group. And we can use both sociometry and psychodrama or sociodrama to cultivate transparency in the group and to deal with issues related to trust. So sociometry is really useful in that it helps illuminate some of the unseen and unknown connections, preferences, choices, identities, and experiences within the group. It helps reveal the group to itself. So sociometry is particularly useful in that regard. We can also use sociometry to explore issues related to trust within a group. For example, I could do a spectrogram related to trust. 0 to 10, how much do you struggle with trust in your relationships? And everyone would self-assess themselves. Or I could ask 0 to 10, how trusting do you feel of the group at hand here? Or how trusting do you feel of yourself? Or how much is trust relate to your goals for recovery? And we could ask various prompts within spectrograms and sociometry to explore dynamics related to trust in the group. We can also use psychodrama or sculpting or sociodrama to explore some of the origins of trust issues for clients in childhood or in relationships. And this can be a really powerful way of embodying or enacting and revisiting, undoing and redoing moments where trust was betrayed in relationships, and giving the protagonist, the client, the opportunity to heal from the ruptures of trust in their past. In many ways, trauma is an antithesis to trust. It tends to destroy one's sense of trust in others. Trauma even disrupts one's ability to trust ourselves, to trust our senses, to trust our memories. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense that SAMHSA would elevate trustworthiness and transparency as essential for trauma-informed professionals. So, as we come to the end of this video on the second trauma-informed principle, I want to just remind you that while we're talking about these principles separately, they're all really interconnected, and we can't fully develop trust and transparency if we're not also embodying and addressing the other 5 trauma-informed principles. So I would encourage you to check out some of the other videos on this channel related to trauma-informed principles, and to subscribe to our channel if you want to get notifications about future videos. Leave us a comment on the video. Tell us what you learned. Tell us what you felt like was most important in this video. Or let us know if you feel like we forgot to mention something important about trust. We're really interested to hear from you. I hope you find this video helpful in your work, and look forward to seeing you in the future.